Have you been hiding parts of you? Maybe you feel like you're not really being as authentic as you'd like to be, or you want more of your true self to come forth? Would you really like to enjoy your life more? Well, my spirit guide portal, my ballerina fairy, who came to me to help me dance through life with joy, wants to help you to dance through your life with more joy and more authenticity. So let's get going and hear her message. And what my ballerina fairy wants me to share with you is, if you want to have more joy in your life, enjoy your journey of your life more, the most important thing, she says, is for you to be you. It's a phrase she tells me all the time, is be you. Whenever I feel confused about what to do, or if I'm off track, or I feel like something's stagnating, she comes back and reminds me to be me. And what that means, to be you, is to be your one true self, your authentic self. Now, that sounds really easy, and it sounds almost like a cliche. You know, authenticity has become a very common word over the years, several years now. But how do you actually be you? How do you actually become true to yourself? Because one of the things that happens, and the reason why you're not, is not because you're inauthentic or not, you're lying to other people, or you're not a good person. It's because you've been programmed different than the way you're wired. So she wants me to share with you an example of when I was a kid. When I was a child, I still am. I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive. I cry easily about things. I can cry when I see someone else crying. I can cry when my feelings are hurt. I can cry in a sad movie. I just easily cry. And that's my wiring. I came in that way. I also came in on the vibration of joy. My mom said I was the happiest baby she's ever seen, or happiest child she ever saw. As I got older and became a teenager, she said, "Boy, you just were the happiest baby she'd ever seen." In fact, I was so happy that I would go talk to strangers that were not strangers like to my parents, but strangers to me as a kid. I'd go up and talk to them and get to know them, and I would be bubbling over with so much joy. They would give me money. They'd give me a quarter. Okay, so that was my natural wiring, the way I came in. But through the raising and life experiences that happened to me, one is my father, for whatever reason, was not comfortable with crying. Either he saw it as a sign of weakness or something he wasn't comfortable with. I couldn't tell you, but he used to tell me all the time when I was little, "Stop crying or I'm going to give you something to cry about." Did you grow up with anything like that, where your parent inadvertently, maybe they knew better, maybe they didn't, but they tried to make you be different than you were? My father would always yell at me to stop crying. I was never very successful at it as a kid about stopping to cry, but programming got in there telling me to not cry when I felt it. And because of that, I would try to hold back. I would stop myself from feeling what I really felt, my emotions, because of that programming. Okay? The other programming I got, remember I said I came in on the vibration of joy? Well, I was programmed, raised to think that, obviously, to use your intellect, that being intelligent is really important, but not just that it's important, because it is important to use your intellect. In fact, I tell people your intellect is one of the most important things on the spiritual path. If you're a spiritual seeker, right, you need to use your intellect to actually be able to embrace the spiritual laws and apply them in a more effective way. But we've been programmed, and I say we because just about everybody I see on the planet has been programmed to lead with your intellect, to lead with logic, practicality, responsibility, and not necessarily what's true in your heart, not come from the joy of what you love. Okay, so I was programmed to lead with my competency. Because of the programming I got, I led with that competency rather than the joy in my heart, rather than the open-hearted self that I really was, the way I came in as a child. Now, that part of me never died off, never went away. It got reserved for my significant other. Now it's my wife, right? I share and be my silly self around her and lead with my open heart. And if I get joy and I bubble over and do a little dance, I'll do that, okay? But the competency part, I would lead with that in every other situation. So it's been like this practice to lead with my open heart rather than my competency. Now that doesn't mean I want to be incompetent, right? But how can I combine that, right? Help, like I do different videos and content because I want to spread spiritual truth and help you in your life to create a life that you love and then know what's true in your heart so you can go for your purpose, your holy calling, and actually start to act on it and manifest it in your life and in the world. But how do you actually do this? How do you take the programming that you've gotten that goes against your wiring, because that's why you're not being true to yourself or inauthentic, okay? Because you've been programmed with, this is the way you're supposed to be. This is what life is like, rather than what's true in your heart and acting on it, okay? So my ballerina fairy wants you to be you. Now, how do you do that? She said the first thing you have to start to do is, one, make the intention that I want to be myself, my one true self, my authentic self. But two, she says, you have to listen to yourself. So to dance through life with joy, you have to, one, start to have the intention of being your one true self. And then two, here's how, and it's not really two, it's the first thing to, so you can be true to yourself, is you have to start the practice of listening to yourself. Now, when she says listen to yourself, she's asking you to listen to that inner voice, okay? Listen to when you get that feeling that something doesn't feel right. Or listen to maybe something that's going in your head, but then you just ignore it because of the way you've been programmed. Maybe you've been programmed that you're supposed to be people pleaser, you're not supposed to cause waves. Or maybe you grew up in a dysfunctional household that the only way that you could survive in that household was to try to fit in, because fitting in was important. And we've all been programmed with you to try to fit, and that fitting in makes it so that you're not being true to yourself. So she wants you to start the practice of listening to yourself. Now, there's different ways of listening to yourself, because when you're in the day, if you have a job or a business, sometimes you can get caught up and you sense something for a second, but it flashes by, right? And so how do you check in and listen so that you can recognize when something is there? And now she's saying you can do two different things. One is you can sit and have quiet time with yourself and actually ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I sensing? What's up for me? What's true that I'm to act on? Ask those kinds of questions, okay? And also the other one is you can, at the end of the day, get out a journal and self-reflect on any little thing that you reflect back in your day, that you had a moment of, I had an inkling of, there's this thing I feel inspired to act on. How do I act on that? What can I do? What can I do to act on this in the next day or next week at the most? Okay? Or, have I checked in with yourself, and did I have any feelings of like, when somebody asked me, do you want to do this, or I want this, did I agree to something that feels good to me? So she says that, you check in and you journal with yourself to write down any of those moments where you had that inner feeling of like, that's not right for me, or that is right for me, okay? Because you want to be able to check in. And she's saying the other third thing, when anybody asks you to do something or invest in something, that's not just like go to the movies, that you want to take a moment and pause and check with, how do you feel? What are you sensing? And even in that moment of what you're sensing, she's saying that you can actually say to the other person, if it sounds good to you, you can say, that sounds good to me, but I want to spend 24 hours to think about it, and I'll let you know tomorrow. Because that 24 hours can give you that time to get away from everybody else's energy, especially if you're an empath or highly sensitive. It's important that you disconnect from other people's energy. Now, we never truly disconnect, but what I mean disconnect by is take your energy off of all the other people and put it on you of what's true for you. And so that 24 hours gives you that time where you can take a moment and take a break for yourself and tune in to what's true for you. And then you can get back to that person. So that way you're not getting yourself into a commitment that you don't really want to do, or like you want to be supportive of that person, but it would really harm you. Because one of the key things that my ballerina fairy is wanting you to get is that anytime that you do something for someone else but it harms you, it's not being true to yourself. Nothing you do for yourself should actually harm you. That doesn't mean that it'll take some energy or might be challenging for you at some point. But if it harms you in any way, that it makes you feel like a bad person, that it's really not good for you physically because maybe you just don't have the physical stamina to do it, or emotionally it's harming you, that you're not to actually act on it. That's not being true to yourself. All right, so I'd love it if you would share in the comments if you have anything like what I said about how I was programmed to lead with my competency. I'd love to hear what yours is, and your commitment to do the practice of listening to yourself. Which one of the things I mentioned, whether you're going to journal or just check in with you or give the 24 hours, that you're going to start to practice. I'd love to see that in the comments because I'd love to be supportive to you. All right, so have a miraculous day, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, or share this with someone that may benefit from it. It all helps my channel. Blessings.